Hello everyone and welcome back to DeadBall TV. I'm your host for today, Josh Deming, and I am joined by Jack from DeadBall TV, and we are here today to discuss the Canada versus Mexico match preview. Jack, first time on the channel, and I appreciate you coming on.
Happy to be here, dude. Ready to get into it.
All right, let's start things off with the Canada versus United States match, because I think both of us have a bit of a smile for different reasons about that match, but I just want to get your initial thoughts on that one, because I think that was probably the most complete performance we've seen under Jesse Marsch, and probably the best performance just to kind of take a look at what we should expect from Canada going forward, because that looks like Marsch ball.
Yeah, I would say I was very impressed by how Canada looked, and I definitely did have a big smile on my face throughout most of the game. And I'm not a U.S. men's national team hater. I mean, I am an American citizen. Like, I don't want the U.S. to, like, explode, you know, or, like, vanish from existence. But I did like the humbling that you guys gave them yesterday, and I really think that's the only way you can describe it. I think I said it was a humiliating defeat. I think 2-1 is very flattering for the United States. If you actually watch this game, y'all probably should have had 4 minimum. I'm looking at Kyle Laren when I say that. And it was a very interesting pulse check of the strengths of the two national teams, Canada and the U.S.
Yep, I 100% agree. When I was looking back at the match, I agree, because a bit of a tendency under Jesse Marsch's short spell in charge of the national team right now is that finishing hasn't always been great and giving up late goals. So the fact that we missed some several chances, like you were touching on, we had a goal that we conceded that it was very avoidable, plus it might have been offside regardless. We saw it out, which is great, but I kind of want to talk about the way that the Canadian pressing game was, because for me, besides some individual performances, because I thought David was really good, Bombito was fantastic, Ali Ahmed had a big game, Davy Chouanier, a couple other standouts, but the way that this team pressed was a thing that made me almost look at them like a club team. The way that they led from the front, Larry may not have scored, but he was up there with David pressing. Every time that the United States had the ball, it seemed like 3-4 white shirts were on them. They caused so many turnovers. Tim Ream probably had the worst game I've ever seen. I couldn't believe it. Like, that to me, overall, that was the number one thing that stood out, and it was very impressive.
Yeah, I think whenever you look at the United States and you say that the goalkeeper was the man of the match, that's usually not a good thing, right? And I think Patrick Schulte was the best player for the U.S. yesterday. And you look at the big guns, right? Because I feel like this is how U.S. fans will cope, because they love the copium, dude. They're smoking that 24/7. They're going to say, oh, it's our backup midfield. Like, this game means nothing. It was a friendly. We don't have Pochettino. I think you can take that route if you want to, but I think it's more telling than that. I really think if you look at how dominant Canada was, and let's not act like the U.S. midfield, you know, the backups are scrubs. These are guys playing like in La Liga, for God's sake, and AC Milan. These are not nobodies. And the way that they were cooked by the Canadian midfield and the Canadian press, I thought was impressive. Excuse my pun there.
There you go.
It really was.
I agree. And on top of just the press, which is, I think, the number one thing that we noticed, I noticed this right from, honestly, the first 2-3 minutes. It just looked like a team that was up for it versus a team that was not. Jesse Marsch got these guys, and maybe it's because, you know, Jesse Marsch was overlooked. He is American. He was going against his home nation, but he got his team, friendly or not, up for it, and they played a complete performance where, you know, you could probably question the United States players' mentality in that. And I know you mentioned, like, you know, they don't have a coach. They're coming off of a poor Copa America, but they just look like a team that didn't care, didn't have any identity, and were ran over. So the last one before we kind of move on, ran over. Do you think that, like, because I saw it a lot on X, and it's just like, yeah, like, yes, Canada was good, but the United States were really bad. Do you put it a little bit of both? Were Canada that good? Were the United States that bad? I know we both watched a lot of the Americans. I know that they can play better than that. But to me, I just kind of put it like, they just weren't up for the fight.
I'm going to answer this in different ways. I think if you look at the different areas of the pitch for the U.S. men's national team, you can say either the U.S. was worse or Canada was better. If I'm talking U.S. attacking 3 versus Canada's defense, Canada's back line was locked down, dude. I mean, it was like all NBA first team Gary Payton one-on-one clamp show. Like, it was Darrelle Revis, whatever you want to call it, Deion Sanders. It was insane. Like, there was a couple chances, especially in the first half, where I felt like Balogun was kind of getting in behind, in the recovery speed of Bombito and Cornelius at times as well. I mean, it's dangerous, man. I think Canada right now, we're seriously asking the question, if it's not the best back line in CONCACAF, most athletic? I mean, it's got to be. It has to. It's one or two. Like, it just is. It just is. And I think that was really a great nullifier in this game for the U.S., which typically relies on speed and movement of their players up front. If we look at the midfield, I do think Eustaquio and, forgive me, I cannot pronounce the guys from Grasshopper. Chouanier.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, Chouanier. Yeah.
I think they were very good. Both of them very good. But Cardoso and Musa might as well have been pulled in the 30th minute. Brendan Aronson is... I mean, I don't want to be a bully. I really try not to be. But he cannot start for the U.S. men's national team. He's just not good enough. He was dispossessed every time he tried to take on his man. I think in the midfield, it probably did lean more that the U.S. was just awful. And then U.S. back line versus the Canadian press up front, Aaron David, Schaffelberg, Ahmed. I think I'm going to say Canada was better in that department as well. And if Kyle Larin puts away a couple chances, that's not even up for debate.
Yeah, 100%. And the front four pressed incredibly. And even when the Americans were able to dink it in, and like you talked about that back line that Canada has. And as a Canadian, I've never seen a back line like this, or honestly could probably never have dreamed that we would have had one all in Europe. Celtic, Marseille, Nice, and Bayern is our back line right now. And Bombito was an animal. I thought he was my man of the match every single time a player.
Dude, I said that too.
Fast players had a step or two on him. He got in the right position to either let the ball out for a goal kick, or he was able just to muscle them off, turn it around, and he's going to be a good player, man. He's a big pickup for Nice, and Davies as well, quietly playing at left back, but doing a good job there, and that's kind of where I like to see him nowadays. But before we go on to the Mexican side of things, I am going to give just a kind of a predicted starting 11. It's very difficult because these are friendlies. I said numerous times in this window, I expect Canada to go all out against the United States. I think this was basically their best 11. So just for anyone out there who's kind of looking at how will Canada maybe line up against Mexico, I think it'll be a few changes here and there, but I think Dane Sinclair will start. Makes sense. It's they're friendlies. Back four, Johnston went out with an injury, so I expect Larea to be at right back. Cornelius took a big blow to the eyebrow, so I probably expect him to get a little bit of rest. I expect Bombito to play again. I think that he can. He got a red card against Nice, so he's not going right back into a club match. So I expect Waterman, Bombito as the two center backs. Davies again at left back. I kind of expect Ahmed. I know he went all 90, but so did Chouanier. Maybe a Frifa goes on the right-hand side, but I kind of expect maybe Ahmed plays 60 or so minutes at right mid. Eustaquio, I'm expecting Azorio to come in for Chouanier, Liam Miller coming in for Jacob Schaffelberg, and then the front two, Tanny coming in for Larin and Jonathan David. That's kind of what I'm expecting. It may be something completely different. Who knows? They're friendlies, but that's just a starting 11 I came up with. So let's switch gears now, Jack, to Mexico. And they picked up a big 3-0 win over New Zealand. I know that you're a little skeptical about how the performance will translate over to the Canadians, but walk me through that game. What were your thoughts?
You're very kind, Josh.
I got you.
Big 3-0 win against New Zealand. Okay, this game, I'm going to be blunt about it. I don't think there's many takeaways from this game because of the level of competition. Like, New Zealand, watching the game, the amount of time that they allowed the Mexican players to have on the ball, the amount of space that there was, simply is not going to exist against Canada. There's no way. Unless Jesse Marsch throws the game plan and is like, we're going to do something completely different for no reason against Mexico, it's just not going to play out the same. New Zealand was making our midfield, which is not the most technical. It's a pretty basic midfield, look quite strong. And I think that says more about New Zealand than it does about, Javier Aguirre coming in and trying to revolutionize his team, because I don't think there was too much of a revolution. I think Chino Huerta looked good. Chino Huerta, I don't know if you're familiar, Josh, but he's a very polarizing figure in the Mexican national team pool. He plays for Pumas, who are kind of like a banter club, so people like to say that he sucks because he plays for Pumas, even though he still puts up numbers for Pumas. But he just does not get any respect for the national team. Came on, almost had 2 goals. He did score 1, almost had a second. Thought it was a very good debut showing for him. Santi Jimenez, that's probably the big name that you're more familiar with. He had a very good opportunity that was saved by the New Zealand goalkeeper in the first half. Outside of that, had some good combination play, but was pretty quiet. Who else should I even highlight? Luis Romo. Here's the thing. Please don't let me go on a rant here, but this sometimes happens where we play poor national teams. all right? And we have some players that are clearly like not to the standard of where we're trying to get as a selección. And they play well against these types of teams. And then the fan base, they drink the Kool-Aid and they're like, oh, maybe this guy's good. And I feel like that's what's going to happen with Luis Romo again. I know we're going to talk about the Copa America. He did have a strong Copa America, within a Copa America campaign that was a disaster, but I guess he wasn't awful. So maybe he's good enough to start for Mexico going forward. These are the kind of dangerous narratives that get placed in the minds of the fan base after we have results like this. So that's why me, personally, I'm like, I learned nothing. I will learn everything about this player pool, about Aguirre and his technical staff, based on how we look against you guys. That's it.
So I guess switching gears to what Canada did well, and we kind of highlighted it, their back four was excellent. Playing over the top was very difficult. And then I guess time on the ball for the Mexican team may be issues. So what are you the most worried about in this match? Are you worried that it will look a little bit like the U.S. match where under pressure, under the press, they can't play through it? Are you worried about creating chances? Are you worried about getting in behind the back four? And how do you think if Mexico can do something successfully to hurt this Canadian team, what do you think it's going to be? How are they going to create chances and score goals against Canada?
That's a great question. How is Mexico going to create chances? I don't know if there's a clear-cut strategy here, because if we go balls over top, we're talking about most likely Quiñones and Alvarado versus Alfonso Davies, and I guess Richie Larea would be the backup there. Maybe Quiñones has the advantage there, but I don't know if there's something that can be exploited resulting in a Mexican victory. And we talk about slow play from the back, and I still don't know what Aguirre is going to try to do. I mean, he just had one game in charge, and again, it was against the Oceania team. So let's just all relax. Playing out from the back with guys like Jesus Gallardo and Israel Reyes in the back line, I think that's going to be a struggle bus. With Luis Romo, Oberlin Pineda, and Luis Chavez as the midfield too. I mean, I just dragged the U.S. midfield, but I still think that midfield is stronger than when Mexico played against New Zealand, and they got bodied. So if they got bodied, guys playing at higher level with a higher technical ceiling than this current Mexican midfield, if they got ran off the pitch, what are we going to do? So I don't know. I feel like I hate saying this because maybe it's a cop-out. I feel like it's going to be set pieces and being clinical, getting a couple chances throughout the game and just trying to put it away. Maybe we rely on Canada kind of going all out against the U.S. and not being as intense against Mexico, which, by the way, I'm curious if you think that the game is going to have a different pace to it, maybe less severe because you guys just beat the U.S., or do you think it's going to be like, okay, we took out one CONCACAF giant, now it's time to beat these guys too?
It's difficult. It's a good question too, because I honestly don't know. I don't think it will be as intense, just mainly because I think Jesse Marsch did get his guys up for it. He played the best 11 I think he could have. They all bought in, and they played almost a flawless game up until the goal we conceded. I think there will be like heavy rotation. Like I think probably half the starting 11 will probably come out. That does mean that there's players that are, fighting for starting 11 spot that could be up for it. I just think I just think there's something different in the air. I think Jesse was like, all right, guys, let's build on this. I don't expect it to be quite as tense and as that entire first half. I was just smiling like, this is such an incredible performance, but I don't expect the same intensity, but I still expect them to play that kind of way, if that makes sense. I think they will still press.
Will you be disappointed if Mexico wins?
Yeah, I mean, it is a friendly, and for me, this window, I was circling the U.S. match. I was hoping that Greg was still there or Pochettino was in, just made it a little bit more juicy. But I think we had such a good performance, and I think the depth with this national team right now is in a good position where you can, I know that it sucks to lose the Cornelius if he's not able to play or if he's just being rested, and Johnston, but Richard Larea is a great player to bring in. I thought Waterman looked comfortable. He's having a decent season with CF Montreal. It's not everyone's cup of tea at the back, but I'm curious to see how he'll look there with, besides someone like a Bombito, because he's got the speed, he's got Davies there. And there's some other guys like Liam Miller. He's having a good season right now at Hull. He hasn't always been able to do it with Canada, but he'll put in a good shift. We're having issues scoring goals. Maybe Jason Russell-Rowe gets to start. Maybe he pops a couple goals, and it kind of changed that narrative that Kyle Aaron's always that guy. So there's a few things I'm looking out for, but I would like to see them build on this performance. I want to see them try to keep the intensity very similar to what they did for the U.S., just because it made it so hard for them to play out of the back and really get any ability in that game. The only time that they started creating stuff was about 20 minutes to go after they scored that goal. Canada kind of changed their tune a little bit. There was 4 or 5 substitutions, and they had that big chance from Pepe. But other than that, there wasn't a whole lot. So I'd like to see a win. It'd top off a great window, but I don't really want to see a loss. I feel like that after this very strong performance we had, plus the history of what Mexico has been going through in the past year or so, I want to see a win. I want to get that mentality, and I kind of want to turn that over to you, Jack, because that was my next question. You brought it up, and it's just kind of for the Canadian fan, because after we won the game against the United States, a lot of Canadian fans were like, "Kings of CONCACAF." I don't like saying that because I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means, and if you're going over history, Canada's not the Kings of CONCACAF because we're having a great moment in the last few years, but it's been a long time coming. It's been years and years of very difficult performances. So, Kings of the moment, maybe, but not Kings of CONCACAF. Mexico could definitely, over the history, go to that. So, I want to kind of go to the Mexican perspective right now. What was the reaction from the Mexican fans or the Mexican press about Mexico's performance at Copa America, getting grouped? And also, what was the reaction to Canada finishing fourth? And does that put any pressure on you guys, maybe trying to get a good result against us this upcoming friendly?
Great questions in there. I'm going to try to start with the Mexican perspective of Canada finishing fourth. I'm going to be honest, this is just my experience, so anybody in the comments, please disagree if you felt differently. But I don't feel like there was a lot of respect put on Canada finishing fourth. I think it was much more of an introspective, like, oh, look how ass cheeks we are, that even Canada got fourth on our side of the bracket. That's what it was. It wasn't like is Canada back? Like, are they on top? It was like, oh, we are actually finished. That's what I saw. So again, people...
Yeah, no.
That's just the pulse check I got in the streets, okay? Anybody, please check me if you saw something differently. What was Mexico's reaction to Mexico's Copa America? I feel like it was a split between, we didn't actually play that poorly. We conceded one goal. We are penalty kicks away, both a conceded penalty against Venezuela and a missed penalty from advancing to the group stages. We were a little unfortunate. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Then there's the other camp, which I guess I'm part of, where I wasn't surprised. The more, as the Copa America approached, as I began watching all the teams in our group more and more, I was like, okay, Venezuela are better than us. Ecuador is better than us. And we are better than Jamaica. Therefore, we are the third best team in this group. So unless we have a very strong performance at the Copa America, we're going to finish third. I thought we would finish tied on points with Venezuela, and then they would have a better GD because Venezuela's defense is locked down, which is hilarious because they just lost 4-0 to Bolivia. So now I look like a clown. But that was altitude. So it's like the game never even happened. Defensively, we were very strong. Offensively, we were dead. So I don't know. I was disappointed because I felt like we didn't go for it. I felt like we didn't have much to lose. We didn't really experiment that much, and we got grouped anyways. So, all right. Well, why didn't we play the young kids? Why didn't we talk about this generational change that's been floated around for 3 years now? When is it actually going to happen? I was personally frustrated. And I guess objectives for Canada's match. This is fascinating to me because I'm a big storylines guy. This is my favorite thing to touch on. This is why I started a YouTube channel. I think for Canada, if y'all win, goddamn, you beat Mexico and the US in the same window and neither game was in Canada? Come on now. That's massive. I mean, it makes the Jesse Marsh appointment look genius. It makes the Canadian player pool look legit. And trust me, it's legit. And I think the vibes are at an all-time high for Canada. I mean, it's you can tell me, you can affirm or disagree, but I feel like it's like back to prime Herdman. Like, oh, we actually got something.
No, I agree. No, I 100% agree.
You agree?
I
okay.
I agree. Mainly because the funnest ride I've had covering Canada's was during World Cup qualifying, just because it was so unexpected. It was so out of the blue, and you just saw all these young players kind of get these moves and hit their stride at the right time, and we topped the qualifying, which was super cool. We had a really disappointing World Cup, and then we had a really disappointing 2023, and I put a prediction video, and I say this all the time, but I truthfully meant it. I'm like, we're going to get grouped at Copa America. I know we have a reasonable group, but I don't see it. And all of a sudden, we got Jesse Marsh right before. I'm like, okay. Like, and I don't know, just all of a sudden, and then I watched the first game, and yes, it was kind of all over the place against Argentina, but you saw something. And then they just built on it. players are getting moves. Players in important positions are getting moves. He's brought in a few dual nationals in important positions. Once again, we haven't even seen Nico Seeger, who had a knock coming in, but it's a 6 in a position that we're a little bit lacking depth. And it's just, we're smiling. And all of a sudden we go into this friendly against the United States and we play the way that we did. We pick up this result. If we go, and I know they're friendlies, but it's against the top rivals we have in our region. And if we get a win, against Mexico, it's just building on this momentum and going into Nations League. I feel probably at an all-time high right now. I think our manager is the exact manager we need. He fits this player pool. And I'm really excited to see how this team can progress and build towards 2026, where, I mean, the Mexican media, the Mexican fans, they're not happy with what's going on. The United States were disappointed with their recent results. I'm assuming Pochettino will give them a boost. But, I mean, hey, it's not, I don't think at time of recording is done yet, so who knows, and who knows if it'll be a fit. It's always a risk. So I'd say right now I'm at an all-time high. Watching and covering Copa America was a lot of fun because I didn't expect it. Kind of like I didn't expect to top World Cup qualifying. I did not expect to finish 4th at Copa America. So it was a lot of fun. And I guess to end off the video, Jack, we're going to kind of throw it over to you to put you on the spot for the starting 11. You're talking about a generational shift. There are some young players in your squad. There was a dual national who was eligible for Canada, and Marcelo Flores. There's Diego Lainez. Build me, I guess, your starting 11. Try to make it somewhat realistic. I'm not sure if you're actually expecting some of these younger players to get looks, but what, I guess, would you like to see / what do you think you're going to see for the Mexican game against Canada?
Sure. Let's just assume that we go 4-2-3-1 again, just for some simplicity's sake. I would like to see Alex Padilla as our goalkeeper against Canada for multiple reasons. I think he's very young, playing for Bilbao. I think he was nominated for Save of the Month in La Liga for a save he had against Barcelona. He's having a very good start to the season over there. And I think he's going to face a lot of shots. So let's get him out there and get him some reps. That's kind of how I see it. Back 4, center backs, Cesar Montes, Johan Vazquez. That is the Mexican center back pairing for the next 5 years, minimum. They're going to have a busy day at the office as well. Let's not get cute and try to throw on somebody else who's just going to get cooked by the Canadian attack. I think we need those guys there. Right back, we started Israel Reyes against New Zealand. I think that's okay. I'm a fan of Israel Reyes, actually, but I think we need to play Araujo in this game. He's been getting serious minutes for Bournemouth, way more than I expected. And I think it's time. This is going to be a great match for him. And I don't know if you know this, Josh, but I'm actually like maybe the most anti-Liam Miller person on YouTube. Okay. And so if Liam Miller cooks Julian Araujo, like, I'm going to be shaken to the core. Like, if he wins that matchup, then I'd be like, yo, we might actually be done as a national team. I'm much more afraid of Schaffelberg. I mean, the pace is crazy. But Julian, he's a speed demon too. So we need to win that battle. How does Mexico win this game? You have to win that battle. Julian has to win on that side of the field. And then at left back, gosh, this one's interesting. Jesus Gallardo, who has twice as many minutes as any other player in this pool, which is kind of crazy. Oh, geez. I'm going to say him again just because I don't know. We didn't really include any other left backs except Jesus Angulo, and I refuse to ever see him for Mexico again. I think he's a bum. So we'll go with Gallardo there. Double pivot, Luis Chavez locked in. I mean, I said set pieces is going to be a key for Mexico in this game. We've seen free kicks at the World Cup, absolute bangers. We've seen free kick goals in the Gold Cup. Great set piece delivery from him, has to start. Next to him, oh gosh, I would love Edson to be here, but he's obviously out, just coming back from injury. I'm going to say we should probably either start Fidel Ambriz, who's a very young guy for Mexico. He's been in like the U23 squad forever, but has never really broken into the senior team. It's going to be a massive baptism for him, though. Like, the only reason I'm kind of leaning Luis Romo, even though I don't think he should be in the Selección, is because dude's got like 50 caps or something like that. Like, he's not going to be... He did play at the Copa America. He was a starter at the Copa America. He's not going to get shook by Canada. I think he's going to be outclassed, but I don't know if he would be shook, and I don't want to... It's like you don't start a rookie quarterback in the NFL week 1 because he's going to throw 3 interceptions and get sacked 5 times. That's kind of what I'm concerned with for Ambriz, but also, F it, bro. We got nothing to lose. In the front 3, I do want to see Chino Huerta start, so I'd probably go him out left. Attacking midfielder, I would like to see Piojo or Sebastian Cordova, attacking midfielder for Tigres. And then out right, maybe keep Piojo again. Keep Piojo again. If not him, jeez, man. No, I'm sticking with Piojo. And then I would go Santi Jimenez up top. I would like to see Marcelo Flores play, but I don't want him to start this match. But I would like him to be introduced around the 60th minute. Like, give my man a proper go. Don't throw him on in the 85th when there's nothing left to do. Like, give him 30 minutes or even a halftime substitution. Maybe switch Chino to the right side. And let's see what that attacking trident can do. That's what I would like to see.
Hey, you like storylines. You get to see Marcelo Flores come on against one of the nations he was eligible for, but Jack, he really struggled with that starting 11, so I'm curious to see how it goes. You didn't want to say any of the players in that one, I'm not going to lie.
Well, you said keep it realistic.
That's true.
Like, I don't, like, he's not going to do this, but I would do it. That's kind of...
Yeah. I should have maybe let you to go. My audience doesn't like that because I always try to keep it realistic. They're like, Josh, just tell me what you'd like to see. I'm like, there's no point. What's the point of theorizing around it for them to go exact opposite of what I'm going for? But anyways, Jack, that's all the time we have for today's preview. I'm very excited for the match. I appreciate you coming on. I'm assuming you'll be having coverage on your channel as well. So if you guys have not checked out DeadBall TV, head over there. Jack does some great work, and hopefully we'll chat soon.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Appreciate you having me on, dude. Best of luck to you.